for all of its ups and downs, Scream is easily one of the most consistent slasher franchises going, with even the lesser entries into the series still being totally watchable and never descending into outright awfulness. And unlike, say, Halloween, Friday the 13th, or A Nightmare on Elm Street, the killer is always somebody different, the Ghostface mantle being adopted by a new flesh-and-blood human being rather than an unkillable supernatural force returning from the void. The Scream fandom certainly has diverse perspective on which killers come out on top, and which slide to the bottom of the pack. And so, with Scream 6 now in the rear view, it's time to reconsider where the various murderers rank. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie for What Culture, here with every Scream killer ranked from worst to best. Number 13, Ethan Landry, Scream 6. Scream 6 suffers the unfortunate indignity of featuring by far the most killers in the franchise to date, all of whom are sadly bottom-tier villains. Coming in at dead last, we have Ethan Landry, the secret brother of Richie, who conspired with his family to avenge his fallen sibling. Ethan is hidden in plain sight for the bulk of the movie, with Mindy making numerous cracks about him definitely being the killer, all in an attempt by the writers to deflect actual suspicion away from him. But ultimately, he's the most perfunctory of all the Ghostfaces. As fun as the idea of 3 killers was, he didn't really add much at all. While his accomplice sister Quinn served more of an overt purpose and had a little more personality, Ethan was basically a nothing burger antagonist memorable only for dying the same way Stu did, and dying a virgin. Number 12, Quinn Bailey, Scream 6. In second to last place, we have Ethan's sister, Quinn, who is at least more amusingly psychotic than her bland brother, even if her whole fake death gambit is incredibly unconvincing. Pre-reveal, her entire character is that she's sex-positive, and that's about it. So there's not a whole lot for the talented Liana Liberato to actually work with. But Quinn's unmasking is ultimately massively predictable if you're paying much attention to the visual language of her death scene, ensuring the surprise element falls almost completely flat in the third act. She also gets the least compelling death of Scream 6's 3 major villains, simply catching a bullet to the head from Sam. Number 11, Detective Wayne Bailey, Scream 6. The ringleader Ghostface in Scream 6 is Detective Bailey, the father of Richie, Ethan, and Quinn, and he suffers big time from being the most aggressively signposted and obvious main killer in the series to date. From the moment that DNA of the previous killers starts showing up at new crime scenes, it's hard not to suspect the new cop character we've never met before, especially once he mentions having a dead son and his daughter dies in suspiciously vague fashion. Bailey is by far the least finessed primary Ghostface in the franchise, for though Dermot Mulroney had some hammy fun playing the seething, vengeful bad guy once the reveal happens, Bailey isn't a terribly interesting character before or after the mask is pulled off. The script simply didn't make enough of an effort to plausibly conceal Bailey's complicity, ensuring that anyone who clocked this early on had things mostly figured out. And on top of that, the whole vengeance motive was done so much better in Scream 2. Number 10, Charlie Walker, Scream 4. On paper, it was certainly a fun wrinkle to make the new Randy one of Scream 4's 2 killers, though Charlie is also a rare Scream killer who truly feels like a supporting sidekick. It doesn't help that he's got a pretty flimsy and uninteresting motive, agreeing to help Jill because he's in love with her, and then gets predictably offed by Jill shortly after playing his hand. Rory Culkin gives a solid performance in the role, and the reveal of his complicity, angrily stabbing Kirby after she frees him, works well, but he's lacking something extra to make him truly compelling. Not quite forgettable, but not far off either. Number 9, Jason Carvey, Scream 6. Scream 6 technically has a 4th Ghostface. I mean, we won't count Greg as he never actually kills anyone, but given that the movie opens with Ghostface copycat Jason killing his film professor Laura Crane. While Jason is only in the movie for 10 minutes, he still makes far more of an impression than the film's 3 proper killers. This is in large part because he's treated so differently to all the others. He's unmasked in record time, we get to see him back at his apartment post-slaughter, and he creepily talks about viewing Laura as a piece of meat while killing her. Plus, he's the only Ghostface in Scream history to be killed by another Ghostface operating independently. While Jason only kills a single person before being cut down, he's totally unlike any other Ghostface, and getting a brief glimpse behind the curtain of a killer doing their thing is pretty neat. Number 8. Roman Bridger, Scream 3. The worst Scream movie, unsurprisingly, also has one of the weakest main killers, because Scream 3 ultimately relies on the silly, convoluted storytelling that it seemed to be mocking in the 2 prior films. Revealing that Sidney had a secret half-brother, that he was the architect of the killings in the first 2 movies, and that he was also the director of Stab 3, Roman Bridger was just asking the audience to accept way too much. Retcons are rarely satisfying after all. The decision to give this Ghostface the ability to mimic the voice of basically anybody they want also proved hugely controversial with fans. And considering this technology is only really coming to plausible fruition in the present day, it's Scream 3's worst aged aspect. On the other hand, Scott Foley is ferocious as Roman once the mask is off. Roman deserves serious credit for being the series' only solo killer to date, and his entire character arc is an ahead-of-its-time commentary on the savage abuse that still goes on in Hollywood today. Number 7. Richie Kkers, Scream 5. Many fans suspected that Jack Quaid would be one of Scream 5's killers the moment that he was cast, enough that his obvious casting, known for playing nice guys yet touting enough of an edge to plausibly play a psychopath, almost seemed like a red herring. But alas, it wasn't. Given that Scream 2022 spends most of its runtime skewering requels, it's fitting that the movie effectively repeats the boyfriend as killer twist from the original movie, and Dewey even called it early on. Richie is certainly likeable enough before the reveal that it hits hard when he turns out to be one of the 2 killers. And he's got an amusingly topical motive as an aggrieved Stab fanboy who kills people in order to generate new material for the next Stab movie. Yet he's ultimately less fun than his partner in crime, Amber, and doesn't make too much of an impression once his guilt has been revealed. Number 6. Mickey, Scream 2. Mickey might well have the purest motive in the entire franchise. He's not settling a grudge, nor does he have any overt personal tie to Sidney beyond being one of her college pals. Mickey is a garden variety psychopath who just wants to kill people so he can get famous when he's caught and then blame it all on the movies. Writer Kevin Williamson was clearly influenced by the moral panic of the 1990s surrounding the effects of horror films on their viewers. The flip side to Mickey having the series' most random motive is that fans may be less emotionally invested in it, no matter that Timothy Olyphant gives a terrifically deranged performance. Now, some ding Mickey for being the series' most predictable killer. I mean, seriously, you gonna cast Timothy Olyphant to play a genuine victim? Yet, he gets major points for being insanely brutal, especially with his callous murder of Sid's boyfriend Derek right in front of her. Number 5. Amber Freeman, Scream 5. Scream 5's Amber gets major credit for being the first Ghostface to kill one of the series' 3 major characters, when she brutally slaughters Dewey at the end of the second act, complete with the chilling one-liner, "It's an honor." Amber also gets the distinction of having the most shocking killer reveal in the series, when she suddenly pulls out a gun and shoots poor Liv in the head, which, no matter your opinion on guns in Scream, is one of the franchise's top-tier holy crap moments. In the vein of her predecessor Jill, Amber is an entertainingly insane young woman who, like Richie, got a little too obsessed with the Stab movies for her own good, assuring the audience that toxic Stab fans aren't merely limited to angry male incels. Amber also benefits from the best and most outrageous Ghostface death, given that she's set on fire by Sidney and Gale, horribly disfigured as a result, and then finally shot dead by Tara. Number 4. Nancy Lumis, Scream 2. Revealing one of Scream 2's killers to be Billy's grief-stricken mother, Nancy Lumis, could have been laughable nonsense with the wrong execution. Yet the genius masterstroke of casting Laurie Metcalf in the role absolutely makes it work. Metcalf has a disarming presence which makes her perhaps the last major cast member you'd ever suspect to be a killer. Mrs. Lumis, of course, benefits from hiding in plain sight under the alter ego of reporter Debbie Salt. And while this could threaten to feel cheap, Metcalf's deliciously bug-eyed performance sells her rage-filled desire to simply get good old-fashioned revenge on Sidney for her son's demise. She's also smart, knowing her physical limitations as one of the oldest killers in the series, to exploit local manic Mickey to do most of the heavy lifting kill-wise. Yet she gets her own props for serving up the most heartbreaking and nauseating death in the entire franchise herself, when she slashes fan favourite Randy to ribbons in the news van. Number 3. Stu Macher, Scream. Stu Macher is unquestionably the most quotable of all the Ghostface killers, in large part due to Matthew Lillard's terrific performance, which pinballs between skin-crawlingly creepy and hilariously daft. While Ghostface accomplices can't help but play second fiddle to the main killer, in Stu's case, he at least cuts a more unsettling presence than Billy, and freely admits that he hasn't got any grander motive than being a nutcase who gets roped into helping Billy through peer pressure. Stu may be a hot mess, but that's just one of the reasons why fans love him, enough that many continue to speculate that he could have inexplicably survived having a TV fall on his head and be waiting in the wings to get revenge on Sydney. I wouldn't hold my breath, though. Number 2. Jill Roberts, Scream 4. Jill was the first Ghostface killer to be a young woman, and also touted one of the most uproariously entertaining, not to mention timely, motives in the series. Jill is obsessed with fame and has orchestrated the latest spate of killings to position herself as the new Sydney, her ultimate goal being to kill and replace her cousin as an iconic survivor. Kevin Williamson's finely tuned script offers an ahead-of-its-time commentary on social media clout chasing, but what pushes Jill over the top is her commitment to the bit. Beyond killing off her accomplice Charlie once he's served his purpose, Jill goes the full crazy hog of committing brutal self-harm to better sell herself as a Ghostface victim. Emma Roberts gives a fantastic performance in the role, especially once the mask is off, and over a decade later, her character's entire arc has aged better than anyone could have surely expected. Number 1. Billy Lumis, Scream. As with most slasher franchises, the OG killer is still the best, and so Scream's original recipe bad guy Billy Lumis remains the one to beat. The film does such a clever job of deflecting suspicion away from Billy, namely by blatantly positioning him as a suspect, that no matter the major weirdo vibes Billy has throughout the movie, the final reveal is a genuine shocker. Skeet Ulrich plays Billy with a sure slyness, sexy and seductive, yet enigmatic enough that his grand heel turn doesn't feel sudden or out of character. Billy's the one who started it all, murdering Sydney's mother Maureen for having an affair with his father, ensuring he remains the most emotionally charged of Sid's masked tormentors. Billy is ultimately the benchmark by which all other Scream killers are measured, no matter the iffy changes that Scream 3 made to his backstory.